The Montero mansion shone like a lighthouse over the sea, its windows ablaze like jewels. Helena adjusted her apron, breathing in the expensive scent of the imported flowers. The guests arrived in discreet sedans, which were swallowed up by the iron gates. Amidst silver trays, she mentally counted the steps of the service. I knew that in that house, invisibility was the safest way to exist. Beatrice, old Alvaro's niece, glided through the halls like a blade. His voice would cut through conversations with practiced laughter and perfectly phrased sentences. Helena kept her distance, taking orders and returning change. It was the night of a charity auction. Masks of charity covered vanities. The string quartet tuned the silence, and nothing seemed out of place. At the makeshift bar, a guest ordered a rare bottle of sparkling wine. Helena handed over the drink, received the bill, and carefully returned the change. $5 was stuck in her palm. Whether she had more or less change, she didn't know. The man smiled without looking, already drawn into the next brilliant conversation. Helena kept her doubts to herself, promising to check the box during the break. When the orchestra changed its tune, Beatrice appeared beside the bar. Someone whispered in her ear, and her smile suddenly hardened. $5 short, he said, letting the sentence drop like lead. Eyes rolled around, glasses raised, curiosity tinged with scorn. Helena felt her stomach sink, but she kept her chin straight. "Ma'am, may I check the box now, please?" she replied. Beatrice raised her hand, cutting off the attempt with cruel elegance. "Everyone here is waiting for your honesty, not your conference." The quartet fell silent, as if the music were choking with shame, and $5 became a cathedral of accusations hanging in the air. A gentleman coughed, a lady commented how sad, but smiled. Someone suggested calling the manager like calling an executioner. Helena opened the drawer, counted bills, coins, and crumpled receipts. The difference was there, but its origin was lost in the rush of the night. Beatrice crossed her arms, satisfied with the spectacle she had created. From the top of the stairs, Alvaro Montero observed everything without blinking. His hands trembled slightly, like ancient leaves in the wind. The butler approached, asking him to come down and intervene. Alvaro shook his head briefly, his eyes fixed on Helena. In that gaze, there was an inventory of guilt that time had not yet settled. $5, Helena, Beatrice repeated, savoring each syllable. "I didn't steal anything," said Helena, her voice as firm as she could be. Some guests exchanged glances, waving invisible fans. The sound of shells in the sea seemed to mock from the open balcony. And the mansion, proud, bowed to hear the social verdict. The manager arrived, breathless, offering a quick solution. "Take the money out of my salary," Helena suggested, protecting her shift. Beatrice smiled, a bitter triumph etching her lips. "You can't buy character with payroll deductions," he whispered. And he placed $5 on the tray, like someone throwing crumbs to pigeons. Helena swallowed the burning sensation in her chest and returned to her work, her hands no longer trembling. Alvaro finally came down slowly and asked for water without ice. When she served him, he held the glass and stared at her for a long time. "What the world calls insignificant sometimes costs one's entire dignity," he said. And the night went on. But the clock inside the house changed time. Dawn had rounded the corners of the hall, now empty and cold. Helena gathered napkins, straightened chairs, and swept up crumbs of luxury. Each step weighed $5, repeated like a wounded mantra. From the garden came the damp scent of grass, innocent of human cruelty. The candelabras gave off a final glow, as if to apologize. Daniel, the son, waited awake at home, his notebook open on the table. Helena thought of him, so she wouldn't cry there, among the crystals and porcelain. He kept the tips correctly and double-checked the records. The manager signed the sheet without looking up at his face. In the kitchen mirror, she saw a small, very tired woman. When he finished, he walked down the office hallway. The tall doors guarded secrets that not even the dust dared to touch. Before he could knock, the doorknob turned. It was Mr. Alvaro, his suit unbuttoned. "Come in," he said, in a whisper reminiscent of an ebbing tide. Helena obeyed, clutching her apron as one clutches courage. The office smelled of old books and broken promises. On the table, a sealed letter rested next to an old pen. Alvaro indicated the chair, but Helena preferred to remain standing. "I felt ashamed tonight, but not of you," he began. "Sometimes I take a long time to descend the stairs of my own cowardice." He pushed the envelope toward her without looking at her. "Keep this safe, and only open it when the time is right." Helena wanted to refuse, fear and shame tightening her throat. "Why me, sir?" he asked, his voice barely audible. "Because the world owes you more than $5, he replied. Outside, the waves lapped rhythmically against the mansion's low wall. Helena sensed that something invisible was shifting the arrangement of the furniture in destiny. He tucked the envelope into the inside pocket of his simple coat. "I need to go back to the salon, sir," he said, bowing slightly. Alvaro nodded, aware that the conversation was not yet over. In the locker room, Helena changed out of her worn-out heels and into soft shoes. He touched the envelope, as if checking a paper talisman. He thought of Daniel and the bills that were waiting for miracles. She thought of her mother, who taught her never to lower her eyes, and she promised herself that she wouldn't cry, at least not there. As she crossed the lobby, she encountered Beatrice with the remaining group. Late laughs, jokes about the $5 incident. Helena kept her spine straight, her steps measured, her voice held back. Alvaro's phrase returned to their ears, slow as a bell. What the world calls insignificant sometimes costs one's entire dignity. Once outside, the sea breeze washed her face with salt and night. She walked to the bus stop, listening to the wheels of the cart creaking. The sky was beginning to lighten, the first light breaking through the darkness. Helena sat down, hands in her lap, the envelope weighing as much as iron. It didn't open. It chose to believe that time is also courage. At home, Daniel got up from his notebook and ran to hug her. "Mom, did everything go well?" he asked, reading the story in her eyes. Helena smiled briefly, tired, but wholeheartedly in her promise. "That's enough, my son. We'll figure out the rest together." And the silence of that morning was the first brick in a different future. The sun that morning seemed colder than usual. At the Montero mansion, the servants spoke in hushed whispers. Helena arrived early, her heart restless, the envelope still tucked into her coat. Beatrice, wearing sunglasses, strutted orders through the corridors, anxious and authoritarian. "Uncle didn't come down for coffee," murmured the butler, his face pale. Helena felt her stomach clench, as if she sensed the inevitable. She ran upstairs, the sound of her own footsteps echoing out of sync. Mr. Alvaro's bedroom door was ajar, and the clock showed 7:42 a.m. Inside, the old man lay on the sheets, his face serene, almost smiling. The glass of water on the bedside table was untouched, and the silence weighed like mourning. "Call the doctor!" shouted the butler, running down the hallway. Helena stood motionless for a few seconds, her eyes welling with tears, her chest tightening. He sat on the edge of the bed and held his boss's cold hand. She remembered his gaze that night and the phrase that now made sense. "The world owes you more than $5. The doctor arrived shortly afterwards, confirming the obvious in a solemn voice. Beatrice pretended to cry, but her eyes remained dry and calculating. Within a few hours, the news spread through the local newspapers. Magnate Alvaro Montero dies at 83, leaving behind a fortune and mystery. And what for many was an end, for Helena would be the true beginning. While the family gathered in the office, Helena tidied her room. The butler watched her with silent respect. He knew more than he let on. On the nightstand, there was an old diary and a yellowed photograph of a woman. Helena recognized the face. Her mother, young, smiling beside Alvaro Montero. Her heart pounded. Was it a coincidence or something much bigger? Beatrice entered suddenly, snatching the photo from Helena's hands. "What are you doing here?" messing with family things, he growled. Just cleaning, ma'am, Helena replied without raising her voice. Then clear your conscience too. People like you live off scraps. Helena said nothing. She kept the pain to herself and left, taking the memory with her. Hours later, the family's lawyer arrived, tense and hurried. He said that there was a will ready, but that Alvaro had given him a secret addendum. Beatrice was intrigued and ordered everything to be opened immediately. The lawyer, however, replied, "There is one condition. It must be read with everyone present." And among everyone, his eyes discreetly searched for Helena. The meeting was scheduled for the following day at 10 in the morning. Helena returned home without understanding the reason for the lawyer's gaze. Daniel tried to cheer her up, saying that perhaps the boss had left something as a token of gratitude. But Helena laughed humorlessly. No one leaves anything for the person who serves at the table. Still, the envelope in his pocket seemed to throb, begging to be opened. At night, while the wind whistled through the cracks, she observed the envelope on the table. He thought of his boss's serene face, the photo of his mother, and his words. A greater force, half fear, half intuition, prevented her from opening it. "When the time is right," she repeated to herself like a sacred vow. And he fell asleep with the envelope under his pillow, listening to the distant sea. The following morning, the entire city was talking about the millionaire's will. Expensive cars parked in front of the mansion, like vultures circling a banquet. Helena entered through the back door, discreetly, trying to be invisible again. But this time, fate had already placed her in the middle of the story. And what she would discover next would change her life and the lives of all the Montero family. The main hall was filled with anxious voices and strong perfumes. The lawyer, Dr. Antunes, was arranging the papers under the watchful eye of the Montero family. Beatrice leaned back on the sofa, crossing her legs with a smug smile. Helena, standing in the back, felt out of place, but the lawyer had insisted on her presence. The air had weight, and even the portraits on the walls seemed to be watching the scene. "Gentlemen," the lawyer began, clearing his throat, "Mr. Alvaro left a main will and an additional document." Beatrice interrupted. "Additional? What kind of joke is that?" He took a deep breath, remaining calm. "A personal addendum, handwritten." Helena felt her body go cold as she remembered the envelope she hadn't yet opened. Something inside her whispered that the addendum smelled just like stored paper. The reading began. The main will left the majority of the assets to the family. But then, in the end, one phrase stood out. "To the person who served me with dignity and kindness, I leave a portion of my inheritance." Beatrice let out a sarcastic laugh, turning to the guests. "It must be some small donation for one of the employees, nothing too extravagant." The lawyer continued, his voice firmer. "That person will also receive a sealed letter containing my personal confession." His eyes searched for Helena again, who instinctively touched her coat pocket. Beatrice noticed the gesture and frowned, sniffing out danger like a restless animal. A dense silence fell, and each breath seemed to echo off the ancient walls. "Helena," the lawyer finally said, breaking the heavy atmosphere, "Mr. Alvaro asked you to be the custodian of this letter." A collective murmur spread through the hall. Beatrice stood up, indignant, her face red with fury. "This is absurd. A maid involved in the will?" But Helena, surprised, simply looked at the lawyer with teary eyes. Dr. Antunes approached and handed her an envelope identical to the one she had. "This was the second copy," he explained in a low voice. "He wanted to make sure it reached you." Helena felt the world spin. The letters, the seal, everything was the same as what I kept at home. He knew," she whispered. "He knew I wouldn't have the courage to open it." The lawyer simply nodded in respectful silence. Beatrice took a step forward, uncontrollably. "This is a fraud. She must have made it all up." "The document will be authenticated," the lawyer replied firmly. And until then, no one will touch the assets. Beatrice stormed out of the room, vowing to settle this in court. Helena, trembling, held the envelope as if it were glass about to shatter. Daniel appeared at the door, calling to his mother with a worried look. Outside, the cloudy sky promised a storm. Helena and Daniel sat on the garden bench, the envelope between them. "Mom, he chose you for a reason," said the son, trying to encourage her. Helena ran her fingers over the seal and whispered, "Then perhaps it's time to find out." With a soft snap, the seal broke, and the past began to breathe. Inside, there was a handwritten letter, the handwriting shaky but firm. "Helena, the world has been cruel to you, just as it was to me one day. I've kept a secret for many years, one that must now be revealed. There's a blood debt that needs to be paid, and you're the only one capable of doing it." Helena paused in her reading, her heart racing, the meaning of the words still hazy. Daniel held his mother's hand, dreading what was to come. "Go on, Mother," she whispered. "Mr. Alvaro wanted you to know." She took a deep breath and read the last line. "Look for the silver box in the attic. There lies the truth that time has tried to hide." And the thunder that exploded in the sky sounded like the beginning of a new era in her life. The news that a simple maid was involved in the will of billionaire Montero spread like wildfire through the alleys and mansions of the city. Newspapers splashed venomous headlines, calling Helena the unlikely heiress and insinuating that it was all manipulation. In the village where she lived, glances were divided between envy and suspicion. Neighbors whispered, shopkeepers murmured, and even her closest friends began to avoid her gaze. Beatriz Montero wasted no time. She hired influential lawyers, spread rumors, and ensured everyone knew that Helena was an opportunist who had taken advantage of an elderly man's vulnerability. On social media, anonymous posts and comments began to appear, distorting her every gesture and word. The pressure was so intense that Daniel had to drop out of school for a few days, outraged by the cruelty inflicted upon his mother. On a grey afternoon, Helena received an unexpected visit. The lawyer, Dr. Antunes, appeared at her door with an apprehensive look and a brown envelope in his hands. He said he needed to talk away from the mansion, away from Beatrice's ears. Inside the envelope were copies of old documents, certificates, letters, and a photo of Alvaro as a young man, holding hands with a woman who looked very much like Helena's mother. He knew the secret couldn't die with him, the lawyer said. But there are people willing to do anything to keep it from ever coming to light. That night, Helena could barely sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the image of her mother smiling and Alvaro's face superimposed on hers, as if destiny had stitched their lives together long ago. The rain fell lightly, washing the streets and her thoughts, but it didn't erase the weight of that revelation. She now understood the meaning of blood debt and felt she was about to plunge into a past she would rather leave buried. The next day, as she tried to go to work, she noticed a black car discreetly following her. She pretended not to notice, but the chill down her spine betrayed her fear. Beatrice had crossed the line. She wanted to intimidate her. Helena clutched the lawyer's envelope to her chest and decided she wouldn't run away. The dignity she had silently maintained during the humiliation now became her armor. At home, Daniel begged her to hand everything over to the police, but Helena refused. "Not yet. First, I need to understand what really happened," she said, with a calmness he didn't recognize. For the first time, there was a new, almost ancestral strength in her voice. That simple woman, with calloused hands, was becoming someone she didn't even know existed. Late that night, sitting at the table, Helena opened one of the old letters. The words were direct and painful. They would never let us be together. They chose for us, and I obeyed. But life exacts what the heart loses. She wept silently, unaware that outside, a car was still watching her, and that Álvaro Montero's past was only beginning to take its toll. Dawn brought a thick fog over the city, and Helena walked through it as if advancing through a veil of memories. She decided to look for Bento, the Montero family's former gardener. The man lived in a humble little house surrounded by plants and silence. When she knocked on the door, he greeted her with teary eyes and a long sigh, as if he already knew why she had come. They sat on the veranda, and Bento served strong coffee in faded cups. Helena showed him the letters and the photograph. The old gardener looked for a few seconds and nodded slowly. "Yes, I remember her. Your mother worked here before you were born. She was sweet, polite, and the boss loved her, but the family wouldn't allow it. They threatened her, offered her money, and she left without looking back." The words came out heavy, like earth being thrown onto a coffin. Helena felt the ground give way beneath her feet. The pieces were beginning to fall into place, and Álvaro's face now took on a different light, that of a man who had lost what he loved most, and who was trying with time to repair the irreparable. "He never remarried," said Bento, wiping away tears. "He always said he had committed the worst of sins, not fighting for the one he loved." Back in the village, Helena told Daniel everything, and he listened in silence, trying to process it. He held his mother's hand and asked, his eyes welling with tears, "So he was my grandfather?" Helena couldn't answer. She just hugged him tightly, and in that gesture, love replaced all the words that fate had left hanging. That night, while tidying the small house, Helena felt her instinct tell her that something was about to happen. She put the letters in a metal box and hid them under the floorboards. Outside, footsteps approached slowly. When the window creaked in the wind, she turned around, but there was no one there, only the distant sound of the sea and a whisper that seemed to come from the past. "Helena, find the silver box." She shuddered. The sound was almost inaudible, but she recognized it. It was Mr. Álvaro's voice, repeating what he had written in the letter. For the first time, she felt that time no longer separated the living from the dead. In that simple house, surrounded by memories, she understood that the secret had not yet been fully revealed. And what was kept in the attic of the Montero mansion could not only explain her origin, but also put her life in danger. The Montero mansion looked different under the cloudy sky that afternoon. The iron gate creaked as if in protest when Helena pushed it open. Each step through the garden brought back memories, muffled laughter, cold orders, the clinking of silverware on porcelain. But now she wasn't just a maid, she was someone searching for the truth. And within her a certainty pulsed. The past still breathed inside that house. The butler, discreet and elderly, opened the door without surprise at seeing her. There was a glint of understanding in his eyes, as if he had anticipated this reunion. "Mr. Álvaro knew you would return," he said, lowering his voice. "He left instructions in case this happened." Helena followed him through dusty corridors to the attic, where the air smelled of old wood and sealed memories. There, under a linen sheet, lay a small silver box. Upon touching it, Helena felt a shiver run up her arms. The cold metal seemed to pulse, as if it held something alive within. The lid creaked open, revealing yellowed letters, old photos, and a small gold wedding ring. At the bottom, a red ribbon bound an envelope with the name Helena, written in trembling handwriting. Her hands trembled as she pulled the seal and read the first lines. "My daughter, if you are reading this, it is because time has finally forgiven me." Old Álvaro's voice echoed in her mind, each word piercing decades of silence. "The woman you knew as your mother was the love of my life. I wanted to fight for you, but I was a coward. I allowed my family to tame me. Today, I don't ask for forgiveness. I only return to you what is rightfully yours." Helena brought her hands to her face, tears streaming down her face uncontrollably. The weight of years of servitude dissolved, giving way to the awareness that that house was also a part of her. When the sound of footsteps echoed behind her, Helena turned around startled. Daniel had come upstairs silently, his gaze fixed on the box. "Mom, what's this?" he asked. She showed him the letters, and together they leafed through the pages of the past. There were photos of her young mother with Alvaro at picnics, dances and trips, undeniable proof of a love that society had forbidden. However, among the letters, one note caught her attention. "There's someone else who needs to know. He also carries my blood." Helena and Daniel exchanged glances. Another heir, another secret. Before they could think any further, the butler reappeared, pale. "Mrs. Beatrice is returning. She mustn't know you are here." Helena hurriedly put everything away, but the sound of a car engine already echoed in the garden. It was too late. The inheritance she had just discovered was about to become the cause of a war. Beatrice entered the attic with anger etched on her face. "I knew it. You couldn't stand being away from the family gold," she shouted. Helena tried to explain, but her words were swallowed by hatred. Her niece lunged forward and tried to snatch the box from her hands. In the midst of the pushing and shoving, one of the letters fell and lay open on the floor, the very one containing Alvaro's confession. Beatrice read the first lines and paled. "You are his daughter?" Silence answered for Helena. Beatrice recoiled, confused, her face alternating between disbelief and despair. "This changes everything," she murmured. But then the cold gaze returned. "Or maybe not. Do you think anyone will believe you? A bastard maid against an entire family?" Helena stared at her firmly, with a dignity that no one else could take away from her. "The truth doesn't need a last name," she said, and she left, taking the past with her in a silver box and the future in her own name. The news spread faster than Helena had imagined. Within hours, the entire town knew the former employee was Alvaro Montero's legitimate daughter. Beatrice, furious, gathered her family and lawyers to contest the will. He claimed the story was a hoax, that the letters were forged, and that Helena had broken into the mansion to steal them. But none of that stopped the buzz. The name Helena Montero was already circulating like a living legend. Meanwhile, Helena and Daniel sought out Dr. Antunes, bringing the letters and the wedding ring as proof. The lawyer, upon seeing the documents, confirmed the authenticity of the paper and the signature. "This changes everything, Helena," he said seriously, "but it also puts you in danger. Beatrice won't accept losing what she believes is hers." He promised to register the will and begin the recognition process, but the restless glint in his eyes betrayed concern. "There are forces in this family that you don't yet know about," he warned. In the following days, Helena realized she was being watched again. The same black car, the same suspicious glances in the courthouse corridors. Daniel, more impulsive, wanted to confront whoever it was, but his mother urged caution. "The truth needs to be shown, not shouted," he said. Even so, fear grew like a shadow. Something inside her told her that Beatrice was preparing something bigger, something that wouldn't end in court, and she wasn't wrong. A week later, Dr. Antunes disappeared without a trace. Documents vanished from his office, and the case was mysteriously paused. The press began to insinuate that Helena had bribed the lawyer, and the public pressure became unbearable. The simple house where she lived became a point of attraction for curious onlookers, and the silence that had once served as her refuge was now invaded by anonymous threats and flashes from reporters. On a rainy night, while Daniel slept, Helena looked out the window and saw a silhouette standing across the street. The shadow didn't move, it just watched. Her heart raced. She took the silver box and hid it under the floorboards, along with the letters and the wedding ring. The feeling of being hunted returned with full force. "They won't stop, Mom," Daniel had said days before, and now she knew he was right. The next day, Helena went to the mansion to demand an explanation. Beatrice greeted her with a fake smile and a cup of tea that no one touched. "Do you really believe you can steal our history?" she taunted, crossing her legs arrogantly. Helena took a deep breath. "I don't want what belongs to you. I only want what blood has rightfully given me." Beatrice laughed coldly. "Blood isn't enough, my dear. It's the name that matters, and mine is engraved on every wall of this house." As she left, Helena heard something coming from the hallway. The butler, his voice trembling, caught up with her and handed her a small folded note. "I found this in Dr. Antunes's room before he disappeared." On the paper, a single sentence written in haste. "Look for the safe behind the family portrait. The real will is there." The wind blew through the curtains like a warning. The game was far from over, and the truth was closer than ever. The following days transformed Helena's life into a labyrinth of tension. With each new headline, her name was distorted and her dignity questioned by people who had never looked her in the eye. But now, there was no turning back. The note left by Dr. Antunes was the last living clue to the true will, and Helena was determined to find it, even if it cost her the little piece she had left. On a rainy morning, she returned to the Montero mansion. The air seemed heavier, as if the walls breathed secrets. The family portrait hung above the fireplace, imposing and cold. There was Alvaro, young and proud, alongside his brothers and nephews. Helena observed for a few moments, trying to decipher the enigma hidden behind the painted eyes. Then she slowly moved the portrait, revealing a safe embedded in the wall. Her heart raced. The note was correct. His hands trembled as he turned the rusty latch. The safe opened with a dry click, and inside was only an ochre-colored envelope, sealed with the Montero coat of arms. Beside it, a small key and a note. "For Helena, when the truth is your only choice." Emotion tightened her throat. She put everything in her bag and left the mansion hurriedly, unaware that she was being watched from the upstairs window. Beatrice watched her leave with a cold smile and the narrowed eyes of someone already plotting her next scheme. At home, Helena called Daniel and opened the envelope on the table. The document inside was the real will, with the notary's seal and Alvaro Montero's signature authenticated. It explicitly stated that half of the fortune would go to Helena and the other legitimate heir, still unknown. Daniel was silent, his eyes wide. "Mom, this proves everything," he exclaimed. But Helena knew it wouldn't be simple. Beatrice wouldn't give up without a fight. The following day, the document was taken to court. The judge agreed to reopen the case, and the news spread like wildfire. The press returned to the streets, and Helena became a symbol of resistance, loved by some, hated by others. Beatrice, in turn, organized a press conference, accusing the former maid of emotional blackmail and elaborate forgery. Her lawyers pressed on, attempting to invalidate the will on the grounds of mental manipulation of the deceased. During one of the preliminary hearings, the judge asked Helena why she had taken so long to present the evidence. She calmly replied, "Because only now have I understood that the truth is not just a right, it's a responsibility." Her words echoed through the courtroom, and for a brief moment even the reporters fell silent. Daniel watched her with pride. The woman who had been humiliated for $5 now faced an entire empire with her head held high. But victory seemed distant. That night, upon arriving home, Helena found the door broken and the silver box ransacked. The letters were gone. Only a torn piece of paper remained on the floor. "Go back to your place." The warning was clear. Someone was willing to erase the past, and if necessary, erase her along with it. Helena cried for the first time since the beginning of the battle, not from fear, but from exhaustion. Daniel hugged her, promising to protect her. But she knew there was no possible protection against the weight of greed. The war for the inheritance was no longer about money. It was about memory, blood, and justice. And if Beatrice wanted revenge, she would have it, but not in the way she expected. The courtroom was packed on the day of the crucial hearing. Cameras flashed, microphones blared, and the name Helena Montero echoed like thunder in every corridor. On the other side, Beatrice arrived escorted by lawyers and security guards, dressed in black from head to toe, as if mourning gave her the right to arrogance. Helena stood firm, her hands clasped in her lap, her gaze calm and resolute. She was no longer fighting for acceptance, she was fighting for the truth. The judge asked for silence and ordered the session to begin. Dr. Antunes, who had reappeared after weeks of disappearance, entered the room limping but alive. A murmur ran through the audience. He carried a thick folder in his hands. "Your Honor," he said in a hoarse voice, "these are the original documents of the will and the letters of acknowledgement of Mr. Alvaro Montero." The impact was immediate. Beatrice paled. Her charade was beginning to crumble. Her lawyer tried to protest, but the judge interrupted him. Dr. Antunes opened the folder and displayed the original letters, each dated and authenticated. In them, Alvaro confessed his paternity, mentioning the lost love and the daughter who had grown up far away. "The legacy I leave is not only of goods, but of reparation," one of the passages read. The words hung over the courtroom like both a blessing and a curse. Beatrice lost control. She stood up, shouting that it was all a charade, that the lawyer had been bribed. The judge threatened to throw her out of the room. Helena, however, remained silent. There was no hatred in her eyes, only a serene weariness. When the judge gave her the floor, she stood up and spoke softly but firmly. "I didn't come to ask for fortune. I came to restore peace to a name that has always denied me." Tears welled up in the eyes of many journalists. Even the judge looked away for a moment, swallowing his emotion. Dr. Antunes, his voice trembling, concluded his speech by saying, "The truth may be late, but it is eternal." The silence that followed was absolute, and then the gavel fell, sealing the decision. The court officially recognized Helena as the legitimate daughter and heir of Mr. Alvaro Montero. Beatrice staggered out of the room, her pride shattered. Helena, on the other hand, remained motionless for a few seconds, trying to comprehend the weight of that victory. Daniel embraced her, whispering, "He recognized you, Mom. Finally." The discreet applause from some of those present grew into a wave of respect. For the first time, Helena felt like no one's servant, only the master of her own story. As she left, reporters surrounded her with questions, flashes, and microphones. But she only smiled, without saying a word. The sea breeze swept across the square in front of the courthouse, and the late afternoon sun bathed her face in a golden light. That wasn't the light of wealth. It was the light of restored dignity. The same glow that Mr. Alvaro had seen that distant night when it all began with just $5 and an injustice. The courtroom, now bathed in the morning sun, seemed like the stage for a final trial, not just a legal one, but a moral one. Helena walked slowly between the wooden benches, each step echoing like a reminder of the long road that had brought her there. Daniel followed close behind, his gaze firm and proud. He knew that his mother was not just a woman fighting for inheritance, but for a name that fate had stolen from her even before her birth. Beatrice sat on the other side of the room, her face pale and her eyes red. She was still trying to maintain her composure, but fear seeped through the cracks in her arrogance. Her lawyers murmured amongst themselves, nervously piling up papers that could no longer hide anything. Beside Helena, the lawyer Dr. Antunes seemed tired, but confident. He had rediscovered not only his duty, but his own conscience. The judge began the session, and the words echoed like hammer blows. Helena was called to testify. She stood, adjusted her simple dress, and climbed onto the podium. The audience leaned forward. She looked at the judge, then at the journalists, and finally at Beatrice. "Throughout my life," she began, "I have learned that respect is something that is not asked for. It is earned, and this is the only legacy I truly want to leave for my son." The cameras started firing. Her words cut through the air like blades of truth. "I was humiliated for $5. They called me a thief, a liar, an opportunist. But all the gold in the world can't buy the weight of a clear conscience. Mr. Alvaro taught me that before he passed away, and today I only want to restore to his name the peace it never had in life." Beatrice laughed, a dry, bitter sound. "Peace? You destroyed our family!" she shouted. The judge warned her, but Helena continued without changing her tone. "I didn't destroy anything, madam. It was the lies, the prejudice, and the greed. I'm just picking up what's left of the truth among the wreckage." Silence filled the courtroom. Even the air seemed to hesitate to move. Daniel stood up, asking the judge for permission to speak. The magistrate agreed, curious. The young man, his voice trembling but confident, faced everyone. "My mother taught me that character is more valuable than any inheritance. And that's why I'm here, to say that even if she loses everything, I've already won everything, because I'm proud of the blood that runs in my veins." Daniel's words echoed in the courtroom like a prayer. The judge took a deep breath and concluded the testimony, setting the final verdict for the following day. Helena left the courtroom with her head held high, her heart heavy but serene. Fate had already been decided, and she knew, no matter the cost, that this would be the last day anyone would doubt who she truly was. On the morning of the verdict, the sky dawned cloudy, as if the whole world were holding its breath. Helena arrived early, in a blue dress with a calm look. Daniel walked beside her, and the city seemed divided between those who rooted for justice and those who still preferred appearances. The courtroom was packed, and even the foreign newspapers followed the outcome of the story that had gripped the country. The judge entered the room, walking slowly and with a serious look. He gestured, and Dr. Antunes stood up. "Before the verdict," said the lawyer, "Mrs. Helena wishes to read something aloud." The judge nodded. Helena walked to the center and took from a folder the original letter from Mr. Alvaro Montero, the same one she had carried since the first day, now yellowed and trembling like an old heart. She took a deep breath and began to read. "Helena, my daughter, time is a fairer judge than men. Money buys walls, but not forgiveness. If this letter has reached you, it is because I have finally found the courage to be the father I never was. What I leave you is not fortune, it is reparation. May the world see you as I saw you, a woman with a rich soul." Helena's eyes welled up with tears, but her voice remained firm. "Signed, Alvaro Montero." She folded the letter and looked at Beatrice, who was already crying silently. "He left me more than an inheritance," Helena said. "He left me a mirror, and in it I saw myself, not as a servant nor as a bastard, but as a daughter. And for that reason today, I forgive him." The judge, his voice choked with emotion, announced the verdict. "The court recognizes Helena Montero as the legitimate daughter and heir of the deceased Alvaro Montero. All assets and rights shall be transferred according to the original will." The room erupted in murmurs and restrained applause. Helena closed her eyes, letting a single tear fall. It was not triumph, it was liberation. Beatrice, desolate, remained seated. When Helena passed by her, she paused for a moment. "You won," whispered her niece without raising her gaze. Helena leaned in and replied softly, "No one wins when hatred is the prize. I only wanted the truth." Beatrice said nothing, and in that instant, something broke inside her. The pride, the resentment, perhaps the emptiness. As they left the courthouse, Helena looked up at the sky. The light rain fell like a late blessing. Daniel took her hand, and together they walked in silence. "And now, mother?" he asked, smiling through his tears. She looked at the horizon and replied, "Now we begin." The sun pierced through the clouds, illuminating Helena's face like a promise. There was no more fear, no more shame, only peace, a peace won not by fortune, but by the unwavering faith that dignity, even when it comes at a high price, is the only treasure that no one can take away. Time passed slowly, as if respecting the silence of a soul in reconstruction. Months after the trial, Helena's old house, simple, with whitewashed walls and flowers on the windowsill, was replaced by something bigger, the Montero Institute, a bright white building erected in homage to truth and education. Where there was once pain and distrust, now there is hope. The Institute provided scholarships for low-income youth, offering not only education, but dignity. Helena chose this path without hesitation. "I don't want anyone else to have to fight for respect like I did," she said during the inauguration. Beside her, Daniel, a law graduate, spoke with the same gleam in his eye that he had inherited from his mother. "My grandfather believed that reparation needed form. Today, it has walls and windows." The city, once skeptical, now revered her. Newspapers that had previously called her a liar began to exalt her as a symbol of overcoming adversity. But Helena didn't let herself be swayed by applause. Every morning, she arrived early at the Institute, walked through the corridors, and greeted the students by name. She knew that each face there was a silent victory, a revenge against the fate that once tried to reduce her to $5 and a humiliation. One day, she received a letter with no return address. Inside, an old photograph of Mr. Alvaro with an unknown child in his arms. On the back of the photo, a single sentence: "There are truths that time has not yet told." Helena put the picture in her drawer and sighed. There was no more fear in her heart, only curiosity. Perhaps the other heir mentioned by Alvaro was still alive somewhere. Daniel noticed his mother's unease and asked if she still thought about the past. "I think so," Helena replied with a calm smile, "but not with pain. The past is the map, the present is the path." That afternoon, she planted a tree in the Institute's garden, a yellow ipé. She said it would be a symbol of new beginnings. When the flowers fell, they would remind the students that everything that falls can bloom again. That night, alone in her office, Helena looked at the portrait of Alvaro Montero hanging on the wall. "Thank you," she murmured, "for leaving me something that money can't buy." She closed her eyes and for a brief moment swore she heard his voice whisper, "Now, daughter, this name belongs to you." She smiled. For the first time, the name Montero sounded light, as if it had finally found the place from which it should never have been expelled. Years passed, and the city changed along with Helena. The Montero Institute became a national benchmark in social education, and her name was synonymous with kindness and integrity. But a ghost from the past still wandered through the corridors of memory: Beatriz. Since her defeat in court, the niece of the late Alvaro had disappeared from social circles, mired in scandals and bankruptcies. One afternoon, as the sun was setting over the sea, Helena was walking through the Institute's courtyard when she heard a trembling call, "Helena." Turning around, she saw Beatriz, aged, frail, with grey hair and a tired look. She wore a simple coat. Nothing resembled the arrogant woman of yesteryear. For a moment, the entire past condensed into that silent reunion. Beatrice lowered her head. "I didn't come to ask for anything," she said, her voice hoarse. "I just wanted to look into your eyes and ask for forgiveness. I lost everything, Helena. The money, the friends, the pride. And in the end, I realized that the only thing that mattered was what you always had: peace." Helena listened without interrupting, her heart heavy and serene at the same time. "What they gave me in humiliation," she replied with a sad smile, "I return in compassion." and she opened her arms, inviting Beatrice into a hug. The woman hesitated, then wept, the tears held back for years finally breaking between them. In that instant, there were no longer winners or losers, only two women whom fate had made enemies and now allowed to become human. After that day, Beatrice began to frequent the institute discreetly, helping in the library. She never asked for public recognition or forgiveness. She simply served in silence, like someone settling a debt with time. The students respected her without knowing who she was, and Helena never revealed it. Sometimes she would see Beatrice watering the yellow ipe tree in the garden, and they would exchange a look of complicity, as if understanding that forgiveness is also a form of inheritance. One morning, as the flowers of the ipe tree began to fall, Helena received a note on the table. It was from Beatrice. "You taught me that forgiveness is the only inheritance worth leaving. Thank you for giving me back my life." There was a golden brooch next to the note, the same one Beatrice had worn at the trial, a symbol of the Montero family. Helena kept it without tears. It was the last gesture of a story that, at last, had found peace. The sun streamed into the office, illuminating the old photograph of Alvaro and the portrait of Helena beside the flowering ipe tree. Through the window, the wind played with the yellow petals, and in her heart there was only gratitude for all that had hurt, for all that had taught her. Autumn arrived gently, scattering golden leaves along the paths of the Montero Institute. The yellow ipe tree bloomed once more, reminding Helena that time is a generous gardener to those who have learned to forgive. The Institute's routine continued peacefully, students smiling in the hallways, Daniel now a law professor, and Helena, though aged, radiating the same serenity of someone who has found her true home. On a rainy afternoon, while reviewing reports in the meeting room, an employee entered with an envelope in her hands. "It arrived for you, no return address," she said, placing the package on the table. Helena looked up, surprised. The envelope was made of thick, aged paper, sealed with red wax and bearing the initials A.M., Alvaro Montero. A shiver ran down her spine. She hesitated for a few seconds before breaking the seal. Inside, there was a letter and an old photograph. The image showed an unknown woman holding a baby in her arms, next to a young man who, upon closer inspection, Helena immediately recognized. It was Alvaro himself. Her heart raced. On the back of the photo, a handwritten inscription read, "He has my blood too." Helena sat down slowly, feeling the ground move beneath her feet. She read the letter, whose handwriting was shaky but familiar. "If this message has reached you, it is because fate has deemed it right to share the truth. There is another heir, the fruit of a mistake I could never repair. His name has been erased from the records, but he lives somewhere, and perhaps needs you, as you once needed me." The sound of the rain faded into the distance. Helena held the letter against her chest and closed her eyes. Her heart, which had previously held only peace, was now filled with questions. Daniel entered soon after, calling her to dinner. She smiled, trying to hide her unease. "Son," she began, "do you believe that the past can continue writing the present?" He laughed, not understanding. "With you, mother, the past never ends." That night, alone, Helena took the photograph from the drawer and observed it under the soft light of the lamp. The child in the image had dark, curious eyes, so similar to Daniel's that she shuddered. Was it a coincidence, or was fate once again plotting a new chapter for the Montero family? Outside, the wind blew strongly, and the flowers of the ipe tree fell silently. Helena looked at Alvaro's portrait on the wall and whispered, "There's still more, isn't there?" The portrait, motionless, seemed to respond only with the discreet gleam of a gilded frame. She put the letter away with the others and turned off the lights, but sleep wouldn't come. Through the window, She watched the rain running like tears down the glass. Deep in her heart, she knew the story didn't end there. That somewhere, perhaps not too far from there was a life connected to hers by invisible threads of blood, guilt, and destiny. Before going to sleep, she wrote a single sentence in her diary, under the date, "Every inheritance carries a secret, and mine is yet to be fully revealed." When day broke, the sun pierced through the curtains and illuminated the letter on the table. A light breeze moved the paper, revealing the last words written by Álvaro Monteiro in almost illegible handwriting. "Look for him before time takes him away too." Helena gazed at the horizon, where the sea merged with the sky. She smiled, that calm smile of someone who already knows that destiny, however late it may be, never fails to knock at the door. And so, amidst the sound of the waves and the scent of falling flowers, the name Monteiro continued to echo, not as a symbol of power, but as a legacy of truth, love, and redemption.